in an effort to move George Springer out of center field. A little stat that I heard recently is that anybody 6'3" and over 220 pounds, there's like, you should see the list, Joe. There's almost nobody who's that size who played center field past the age of 32. When you look at what the Jays are doing, do you think moving George out of center field is a priority, or is that being overblown a little bit? Could you see George still taking center field in 2023?
I can in 2023, but as you continue to move forward, I think the move is going to have to be made. And the reason I chuckled when you were rattling off those numbers is because our beloved producer, Chris Black on Blue Jay Central, is the one that started that. And I remember when he first started talking to me about it and then he tweeted it, I was like, where do you find this information? Like, how do you search this stuff? And honestly, compliments to him. It was a fantastic thread. And he does a lot of great ones on Twitter.
Oh, we love Chris Black. He's been on a couple times. Yeah.
It was so good because you go, oh, okay. So I thought that, but oh yeah, George's got to move. Yeah, he's going to have to move for sure. So that's why, look, I wasn't in love with the Teoscar trade. I was more, I'm not saying I love the way Teoscar plays his total game because we know he's got some swing and miss and chasing that bat. And we know that he goes to sleep in the outfield sometimes. It's very frustrating. And I was very critical of him at times. But final year of a contract before he's a free agent, I mean, he could hit 30 and drive in 100 for fun on this team next year. So that's a lot of production that you're trading away. Now, there are lots of offseason left for the Blue Jays to try to replenish that. But the only part I liked about it is that you're getting rid of one of those right-handed bats and hopefully fill it with a left-handed bat. So the Blue Jays do need to get a little more left-handed, I think. I feel strongly about that as well. Throughout the course of the season, I will say the way I have felt about the Blue Jays lineup being too right-handed, it dropped a couple spots on my list in terms of concerns because my concerns, needs, requirements are totally to the pitching side. And you lose Ross Stripling, Barrios has the year he had. Starting pitching for me is number one. And right behind it is a bullpen armor too. And when I say a bullpen armor too, I'm talking like top notch. I'm talking like high powered, nasty secondary pitch. They got Swanson in the deal. I look at him, very good. He had a great year last year. Much like when Anthony Bass came over in the trade at the deadline, very good pitcher. I was critical because I didn't think the Blue Jays did enough. I like the high-powered 99 with the wipeout slider. Now, there aren't tons of those in the game. Can you acquire them at a trade deadline? Well, it all depends on how you line up with other teams. How much do you want to give up? Do you have the talent in your minor leagues or prospects to give up for whoever that might be? I just felt the Blue Jays didn't push that envelope when they were at a spot at the trade deadline, knowing that their bullpen had already been worked pretty hard. It was going to be worked pretty hard for the next couple of months. And then they had October baseball to deal with. I thought they should have provided a little bit more depth at a deadline for a team that, if they had that, could have made a deeper run. And wouldn't you know it, they blew an 8-1 lead and it was the bullpen that coughed it up. And I know it was a funny play in center field, but let's just say the bullpen coughed it up.
Yeah. So yesterday, Mark Shapiro stated that the Blue Jays have the capacity to continue raising payroll in the future. He said that the luxury tax, the CBT, $233 million in 2023 is not an obstacle. And if this is true, it feels like the Jays could still land a big fish. Carlos Rodon is still out there. We just talked starting pitching. I feel like if they are going to go all in on a guy, he's kind of the dude I would like. Left-handed starter, would fit in so beautifully between Manoah and Gausman, a proven track record. If you were spending this money, Joe, is Rodon who you would be after? Or are you leaning more towards a Nimmo, a left-handed bat, a guy who could play some center field? Where would you allocate those funds?
Rodon. Let me think about that. Rodon, 100%. Rodon is the answer for me because that's what's going to help you win right now. Now, he's probably going to need 5 or 6 years and a ton of money, probably 30 a year. But to me, that's what's going to give you the best chance to win now and moving forward. You've still got Gausman, Manoah. What a rotation moving forward. Let's all just put our hands together and hope Barrios gets back to being Barrios at all, like just a little better. And then, if there's a stripling still out there or a guy like that to kind of complement, but I sure hope you're not still counting on a Mitch White and a Kikuchi. Like what happened last year is they just got so thin and they had nothing in the reserves. There is no depth whatsoever. There was nothing when we were in spring training hearing about, rotation depth of Anthony Kay and Thomas Hatch, and the list went on. I was like, Casey Lawrence. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
No chance. So yes, Rodon would be top of the list for me. And again, only because I say that to me is number one. And then that the lineup issues or the left-handed bat to me is number two. I can handle George Springer in center field for another year and you deal with it. But after trading Teoscar, you got to do something. They've got to acquire an outfielder somewhere. And that's why I almost would have just, and I know they saved some money by trading him away, but I would have kept that bat, rolled that lineup for another year, even though, again, we all know it needs to be a little more left-handed. But to me, pitching. And rotation's obviously number one for me, but those high leverage bullpen arms that I talk about every October, from about October the 1st to November the 2nd. And we saw it play out once again with that Phillies bullpen and with the Astros bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, Edwin Diaz was number one. That was the dream. I know that was a long shot at best. And then even Robert Suarez, like those, like you said, the high velo guys with that 99-mile-an-hour wipeout slider. It's tough not to fall in love with that.
And I will say, like, I do. I think it plays. And the reason I think it plays is because there are other very good pitchers. And, you've got Bass, this Swanson, these guys that are maybe Jimmy Garcia, they might be 93 to 95. And that's good. But I just think that extra velo gives you the little bit of room for error. It gives you a little bit more room for error. When you're an Anthony Bass and you're counting on that slider, well, you can throw 2 or 3 really good sliders in a row, but those darn sliders, I always find it takes that one to spin and it's right there. That's why I like the high velo guys, because now ask any hitter alive if they'd rather see 95 with a nasty slider or 99 or 100 and a nasty slider. And you know what the answer is going to be. The extra velo just makes you gear up a little bit more. It makes it more difficult to handle that slider. But when that slider's hung out in a tee, you get a little bit of a chance. So it's not a big difference, but I think it's a big difference in my philosophy or what I like and what I want. Those guys that are 94, 95 with a good slider can be very effective. You don't have to throw 100, but I like them better.